Hello, it's Anita Richardson, Superintendent, School District 57, and I'm pleased to be able to meet with some of our students from our local high schools today. And with me, I will let him introduce himself.
I'm Talal from College Heights Secondary School.
Thanks for being here, Talal.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. And I have a couple questions. So I think everyone's wondering, what can we expect school to look like this fall?
That's a really good question, and some of you may have heard that yesterday we announced that there's a change for high schools in Prince George, and that we will be moving to a quartered system or modified Copernican. So what that means for students in Prince George, School District 57, is that you'll have 2 courses a day for 10 weeks. So you'll take those same 2 courses for a full 10 weeks, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. And so that's a change from what you've experienced so far with the semestered system. So it'll look a little bit different. We settled on this model when we were kind of trying to figure out what we could do to keep it as much the same as it was before, to keep the same type of options available or the closest and the most in-class instruction and all of those things that we value about learning in School District 57. So we chose this model. It will have obviously some things that are different other than just kind of your bell schedule or time of day. There will be a slight reduction in options, the choices of options that happens in that regard. But other than that, you should still be able to take phys ed and all of those other courses that students tend to love while they're at school, just with some modifications and adaptations to allow for things that COVID requires. So you might see things like requirements for masks when you're moving between classes in hallways where we can't separate students and keep them in their learning groups. Then there will be a requirement for you to wear masks in your high school in those kind of common areas. So that would be something that's different. Your learning group, when we talk about a learning group, is really composed of your morning class and your afternoon class. So together, that's one learning group. And so when you're in common spaces outside of that learning group, that's when there's some different expectations around needing to physically distance and wear a mask where that's not possible.
Okay, thank you. And my second question is, so what supports will be in place for grade 8s on the first day of school to help navigate their new school?
Yeah. Grade 8s have a big thing coming up for changing schools, and they haven't had an opportunity to visit. So what we are doing in those first couple of days, September 10th and 11th, is really trying to have a bit of a gradual entry for students. And so we've been encouraging our principals to think about organizing an opportunity for grade 8s to come into the building on their own time, similar to opportunities they've had in the past, so that they can get familiar.
Okay, thank you. And my third question is, so what mental health supports will be in place for those who are struggling with COVID and the whole pandemic?
Yeah, and that's a big deal, isn't it? A lot of us are under a lot of stress with COVID in our communities and across the globe, and how it's impacting all of our friends and families. So I think it's key to remember that you have a great mental health team in all of your schools. You have counselors that are present, you have teachers that have training. And I would say for students, the most important thing is to find your person. Find that adult that you trust and that you have a good relationship with, and if someone that you can kind of lean on and ask questions of if you're not sure. And if you're struggling, make sure you're connecting with the counselor's office and getting in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Erica Hauka, and I'm a student at Duchess Park, and I have a few questions with Cap here today.
And my name is Kat Manhas, and I'm one of the assistant superintendents here in School District 57. Hi, Erica.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
Good.
So the first question I'm going to have here is, how do we enter the schools, and will all lockers be accessible?
Coming to school, entering the school building will it'll be the same and different. Of course, you're going to be entering the school through the doors that you normally enter through, but in an effort to ensure that we're not having mass groups of people all congregating to one doors, you will be entering through your learning groups at various areas of the school. One thing that we want to ensure that we're doing is trying to maintain a physical distance between kids as best as we can. And we know that some of the areas where that could be challenging is people coming into school and leaving school. So our school staffs right now are working at putting kids in secondary into learning groups by their classes, in elementary by their classrooms, and focusing on which doors, which areas of the school they're going to be entering from. So not all kids will be entering from one area. It'll be pretty specific in its design as to where you come into school and where you leave the school. And the idea, again, is to ensure that we're maintaining as much physical distance between people as we possibly can. On lockers, right now lockers will not be accessible to high school students. It's when you have a locker, you're pretty close to others, and we just want to make sure that we're keeping people safe at this time. So it may not be a no all year, but right now we're not opening our lockers.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
And the second question I have is there going to be a plan for the lunchtime hours? Will it be set in place that students will be in certain rooms for their lunches?
So lunchtime again is another opportunity for a challenge when it comes to physical distancing, right? And when you're eating lunch especially. So there are a couple of options when it comes to lunchtime. Kids can remain in their classroom with their learning group and eat lunch there. And there will be supervision around the school to ensure that everybody is safe. Or kids can go outside. And because we know that outside we have a better opportunity to physically distance and it's just safer outside. So we will not see mass areas like a cafeteria where a bunch of kids will be hanging out because we just can't ensure safety that way. So right now the plan is to eat your lunch in classrooms and or outside.
Okay. Then finally we have, what are the top priorities for the students and staff in the schools?
Oh wow, and that's a great question. Because as a learning institution, our primary focus is always learning, right? But right now we're in a period where our number one priority is safety and caring for students and staff. We just want to ensure the safety of everybody that's entering our building. We want to make sure that we're following the advice of our public health officer in terms of that safety. We want to make sure also that our grade 12 students who are going to be leaving us this year on the learning side have every opportunity to ensure that they're successful in whatever they choose post-secondary. So we have put a lot of focus into ensuring that we're offering the right courses and trying to make sure that our grade 12s who are leaving this year will be well taken care of this year and next year. That's not to say that we're not doing the same for the rest of our population, but we know that this is our last year with our graduates and it's a unique year for them. So top priorities for sure is safety and caring for students and staff, and then making sure that our graduates have their life plans when they leave us are being met.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I'd really like to thank the students that joined us today from DSAC and for bringing the questions forward from themselves and their peers in their schools and sharing the concerns that they had on their mind so that we could speak to that a little bit. Hopefully we'll hear some other questions and be able to maybe sit down again and have further conversation so that all students and parents can have an understanding of what they'll be heading into for September, because really what we want to do is make our students and our families feel as comfortable as possible sending their children back to our classrooms in September, knowing that we are doing the very best we can to keep them safe, to keep them healthy, and to keep them learning in the best way that they can. Thanks for joining us.